Welcome to our series on zero trust security in the federal government. I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and we're here with Beau Hauser, Chief Information Security Officer at the U.S. Bureau of Census. Beau, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Wyatt. Thanks for having me today.
I'd like to start by just getting your take on what your top priorities are now in the next year, in the short term, and maybe a little bit longer term, to meet the federal zero trust security requirements.
Yeah, we've got a lot of things happening. There's a lot coming out from all elements of the government, right? So we're really busy with getting our zero trust organized. A couple things to highlight. Obviously, we are part of the Department of Commerce, and we're following the Department of Commerce's plan for zero trust. We just recently developed a zero trust reference architecture at Census. It really taught us a lot to kind of go through that exercise and get all of the technical SMEs, in line with how zero trust changes things. So I'm happy to have this conversation with you today to talk more about some of those details and how we work through that.
Oh, terrific. Well, one of the questions that often comes up is how agencies are trying to implement zero trust principles across multiple networks or domains or even sort of functional silos. How are you trying to address that at the Census Bureau?
Yeah, one of the things that we have prioritized at Census is our cloud migration, and we think that that migrating to cloud will simplify a lot of the challenges that some organizations might face otherwise. Cloud has a lot of capabilities native to the cloud services, and taking advantage of those, I think, is a way for us to accelerate it. As you know, zero trust moves away from what we're used to from a role-based access control. It moves into an attribute-based access control, right? And so part of that attribute model is additional technologies like TIC 3.0. We're figuring out how we're going to do that in the cloud. And then, of course, SASE, Secure Access Service Edge, so to replace our VPN, our traditional VPN. So those are some of the capabilities that are on our cloud roadmap that are going to really enable zero trust for us at Census.
Well, I'm aware that Census went through a very, fundamental overhaul with the cloud, getting ready for the 2020 census. So in many ways, you've put a lot in place. So I'm all the more curious to learn, federal agencies do have a lot of additional compliance requirements under FSMA, for example. What concerns do you have about kind of aligning zero trust with those kinds of more traditional security requirements, that sort of so-called check the box approach to security?
Right. That's always a struggle. We certainly wrestled with a lot of those things during the 2020 census, and we learned a lot from that. Now that there's so much guidance coming out and direction coming out around zero trust as sort of the next evolution of IT across the federal government, the same sort of trade-offs and negotiations are happening. One of the things that concerns me is how difficult it is to harmonize the new guidance coming out with all the existing guidance. And I know that there's a lot of effort. OMB puts in a lot of effort, and on the Hill there's a lot of effort to streamline these things as best they can. But the problem is the new guidance is coming out so much faster than the guidance around the harmonization of all these things. So we end up struggling with what's relevant, what's not relevant, what do we prioritize, what do we not prioritize, and we spend a lot of energy there. So that is a big challenge for us, but it is getting better. We do see it getting better, and we see that improving across the federal government, but it just takes time.
Well, I know you're not alone in that.
Yeah.
And I guess lastly, what is the Census Bureau, how are you planning to unify approaches across the so-called 5 pillars of zero trust around identities, devices, applications, data and networks and so forth, so that essentially you're getting closer to being able to automate and have greater visibility across all 5 of those pillars of zero trust?
Right. And it's absolutely critical to do exactly what you said. You have to have uniformity across a lot of the capabilities. when it comes to managing identity, we know is absolutely critical to zero trust, right? And we know that identity extends to the device, right? We got our user identity, we got the device identity, and then we've got other attributes that we can use in this new model of attribute-based access control. And so what we're trying to do is really get a handle on these fundamental capabilities so that we know who the person is that we're giving access to. We know what device they're on, and we confirm it's the device we expect them to be on. And then we're figuring out what other attributes we want to also include, like geographic location. If you always connect from the DC area, then we're going to restrict you to the DC area, right, as an additional attribute for that. So it is absolutely critical. Again, cloud and cloud service providers understand how critical these things are. And so they're doing a lot of this for us by building it into a lot of their services. So that's helping us a lot. And so, SASE is a big part of it from a device management standpoint. So we're doing a lot. We got a lot of pieces in place, and we're working hard to kind of bring it all together into this new approach to IT.
Well, Beau, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to share with us some of the efforts that you're taking at the Census Bureau to continue to move forward with zero trust security.
Thanks, Wyatt.